Okay, welcome everybody to Saratoga Whiskey Club tasting number 119. Hard to believe we're pushing 120, which will happen next week. And who knows, maybe we'll get to 122, 123 by the end of the year. But it's been a great year. It's been a fun year of doing some in-person things, but we're continuing to do some hybrid Zoom in-person tastings as well. We have so many members now kind of spread out mostly around the Northeast, but we even have people down in the Southeast now and West Coast. So we're going to still do some Zoom meetings as we move along. But a couple of announcements, just with some upcoming tastings. Next week we have Campbelltown. That actually filled. Don't try and sign up for that anymore. We got a lot of people who signed on in the last day. And then in November, we have a really great tasting that's going to be our second annual Saratoga Whiskey Night. We're partnering with Saratoga Living and having a great tasting at the Putnam Place here in Saratoga Springs. That will not be on Zoom, so you have to go in person if you want to join that. But that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have about 65, 70 people at that tasting. There's going to be some food as well and a cocktail, lots of good stuff. And then there will be a tasting after Thanksgiving, the week after Thanksgiving. And then we have our Advent calendar for December, but we also have a couple of really great tastings that I'm going to announce here in the next week or so. But one of them's really, really special. It's kind of a very unique, we'll call it a vintage tasting. But tonight we are going to really enjoy some really great bourbons that I brought back from a trip to Kentucky just a few weeks ago. I was down there with another Rascal and Thorn group. This was a private kind of family birthday group, and I did drive, so I was able to hit some stores along the way and check out some shops in Louisville as well, and was able to find some pretty cool stuff that we're going to be drinking tonight. 6 bourbons tonight. They're all pretty powerful, so just keep that in mind as we go along. Nobody's telling you to just pound them straight back. Just sip these, taste them. We're going to talk about them, talk about the distilleries a little bit as well, tasting notes, everything we can. There is a scorecard online if you want to do that. We do have a scorecard here on the table for all the people here in person. We do have about 14 people here in person, so it could get a little loud, especially once we get maybe past dram number 2 or 3. It's probably going to get really loud. So I'm going to do my best to mute myself when it gets too loud. So if I'm not talking a ton at that point, we'll use the chat room as much as possible as well to kind of let our tasting notes be heard and all of that. But so without waiting any longer, let's get right into it. Some of you have been with the club since the beginning. Again, we started back in 2015, so a long time ago now. And we had a really fun dinner in my backyard that first year. And one of the whiskeys we had was actually a Blood Oath. I can't even remember what Pact it was. I think it had to be like Pact 2, maybe. I don't think it was Pact 1, but it was a long, long time ago. And so we've always tried to get the different packs when they come through. They're getting harder and harder to find and getting more expensive, just like all the other bourbons are getting expensive as well. But we're going to start with this one. Let me grab the bottle here. So this is Blood Oath Pact 8. This is their 8th iteration. Always comes in a fancy wooden box. It's got the year on the side. I don't know how much money they spend just on putting these bottles together, but really nice bottle as well. I'll pass this around for you guys to take a look at. But every year they do something different. Blood Oath comes from Lux Row Distillers, which is in Bardstown. I happened to ask our driver when we were in Bardstown a few weeks ago to drop us off there for 10 minutes so we could run in and see if they had anything for sale. And fortunately, they had these sitting there, which was great. So we each were able to buy one. It was a minimum that you could only buy one per person. But every year it's different. Every year it's a combination of different whiskeys, different finishings. John Rempe is the master distiller there. Back in 2018, actually Shalom has the bottle at his house there. We actually got to taste Pact 4 with John Rempe right there at Lux Row. So it was really kind of cool to have him tell us the story of how they do Blood Oath and what's all behind it. But yeah, Holly's showing the in-person group there. You can see there's a few people here. And they're all being really quiet. This is kind of crazy. They're usually not like this. Yeah, I scared you. I'm going to kick you out. No. So every year it's the same proof. That's part of the oath. So 98.6 proof. It's going to be that every year. Also, the whiskey is non-disclosed. They don't tell you where it's from. That's also part of the oath. I think that's just another way of pretending that they don't know. But, you know, it is what it is. I have some information here. So this is a combination of 3 different bourbons. The first one is a 14-year rye bourbon, so a high rye bourbon. The second is an 11-year rye bourbon, so another high rye bourbon. And the third is an 8-year high rye bourbon that's finished in Calvados casks from Normandy in France to impart slight apple on the nose with hints of vanilla and cinnamon. So this is the first time they've done a Calvados release. They did I remember they did a cognac release a couple years ago. I think that was 2020. That must have been Pact 6. I remember opening that in Congress Park and tasting that on a video during the middle of COVID. But yeah, so this is Pact 8. Let's see what it tastes like, and hopefully it's good. You know, usually they're pretty solid. Some are better than others, and I haven't tasted this yet, so I don't have any tasting notes. But please feel free to chime in and.
Calvados is getting apples on the nose and palate. So Charles, I can smell the sweet, and then it burned my throat.
Now you got to get your palate adjusted. You know, you can't just dive in. That first sip, especially, don't count the first sip as being a sip to judge a whiskey on.
It's very clean. I like it a lot. It's almost a little Clyde Mays. That's how apple it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clyde Mays.
Yeah. That's kind of what it reminded me of.
All right, well, that didn't take long for the room to get really loud. So one sip, that's all it took. I don't know what happened. It's like a magic trick.
Just one sip. That's all it took. Yeah, just one sip.
Okay, Dave, this is scary. I was thinking of the same song, but since I had only one sip, I didn't sing it out loud.
I had 2.
Pretty tasty, I have to say. So the suggested retail price is $119. That's what the suggested retail price. It was kind of funny today. Holly saw, you know, everybody was talking about the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection that was announced today, and you know, there's excitement in the air, whatever. It's all a bunch of hoo-ha. But they say exactly that what is it? How did they describe it?
All of the bottles, even the older expressions, suggested
Oh.
retail price from the distillery was $99.
Yeah, so the suggested retail price of all of the bottles
It's a jerk.
by Buffalo Trace is $99 for all of them, suggested.
Like the 1998 price.
But then they said something about retailers though.
Oh, and then it said, but retailers can charge whatever, I'm paraphrasing, but retailers can charge whatever they like.
Yeah, so they actually said that retailers can charge whatever they feel like. And I've never heard anybody, any distillery or anybody ever say, well, it should be this, but charge whatever you want. I mean, that's just crazy.
Just economics, Charles.
No, I know, but you don't say it.
What I can't
You just-
understand is why doesn't the distillery take a larger cut?
Yeah, they were crazy.
Why
That is
don't they
funny.
raise their prices?
I mean, it'll
It's so peaceful now.
Well, yeah. So Kim, where do you live? Not that we're going there to buy anything.
I'd give you one guess. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
You saw the Pact 8 for that price?
Yeah.
Wow.
Manhattan?
So,
I mean, it's a place that's known, like every time I've ever found anything there that I wanted, it's always marked up, but that's
Wow.
crazy.
that is a lot. Yeah.
I live in New York City.
$735 for this bottle.
You can come up with 100.
So I had to pay, so this is kind of crazy too, at Lux Row, even though they tell you the suggested retail price is $119, they sell it for $150 at the distillery. Which is like, okay, you know, again, doesn't really make any sense, but I guess, you know, it's if people go there, they you know, get access to it, which I guess is how they're looking at it, you know. It's pretty hard to get, but oh yeah, there, Holly wrote it in the chat room. Retailers determine the final offering price by state and location. I mean, come on, that's just
And even.
asking for
and-
trouble. Yeah.
License to steal.
Yeah, license to steal, that's right.
Limits the prices, you might get it
More like based on
close to.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
Yeah,
you
it's
never
like
find
in a
it.
raffle or something.
So yay, nay on this one? Good, bad? Pretty good, right?
It's good. I don't think it's like $200 good.
No.
Yeah, I'm feeling the same way. I love the nose a lot. To me, the palate doesn't fit the nose as much, and it gets hot quick. But yeah, definitely good. I definitely enjoy it.
I 100% agree. It smells a lot different than it tastes.
Yeah.
I'd say it's probably, you know, $100, $120 worth, but whether it's $200, yeah, that's up for debate. Definitely not $735.
I think you can tell that it's high rye bourbons, or at least bourbons that they wanted to put rye in the name. You know, 'cause it's a little spicier than I would have thought from the proof.
I get lots of minty notes, especially on the finish, but I also get flowers, but the mintiness I'm getting is probably from the rye.
I'm getting that mintiness as well.
Yeah, yep.
But it's
It
really,
drinks a li-
I mean, my whole tongue is just completely coated. It's very nice.
It was
I feel like
initially
it-
pretty hot. What is the ABV on this? I missed it.
It's
49.3.
yeah, 49.3.
Tastes hotter than that.
Yeah, I agree.
That could be the rye though, you know. I think that-
I got cinnamon and mint. I got cinnamon more up front, but then I got a little mint. On the finish.
Oh, go ahead. All right, I think that was a good, so we started off with the lowest proof, even though it maybe tasted a little hotter than it was, but this tasting pretty much is going in order of proof. which is either a good thing or a bad thing. But I do sometimes like to taste some of these lower proof ones, though, you know, right off the bat before we singe our tongues with the 60%ers. So, so we're gonna move on. Everybody good with moving on to number 2? Yeah.
Hey,
All right.
hey, Charles, this is Mike. Got a,
Yeah, hey,
a
Mike.
question. First timer here, so
Yeah.
thanks for putting this together. It's pretty
Sure.
cool. I have the scorecard up.
Yeah.
How do you score these out? Is
Yeah,
there
good
some criteria, or is it just, you know, pure, hey, 25, I like it
Yeah.
the most,
No,
one,
thank you
not
for
too
asking,
much?
because we do have quite a few new people. So it is super subjective. Somebody just said that out here. It is, you know, 25 for each category. So you have nose, which is your initial kind of nose impressions. You can go back and nose it again after you've tasted it. It might change your impression of your nose. Then you have your palate, which is kind of your flavor in your mouth, and then the finish is kind of the end of the palate, what you feel after you've swallowed it as well, what you taste. And then you have kind of the balance, which is how the whole whiskey played out. Was it, you know, kind of a smooth ride all the way, or was the nose better than the palate? You know, was it balanced? And each is out of 25 points. Typically, we kind of think about like a 20 is kind of a B minus score, right? Like in when if you multiplied it by 5 or 4, you would have 80 out of 100. So, you know, it's kind of that B minus C plus range. Anything kind of above a 90 is really a great whiskey. So, you know, if it's a really bad whiskey, you're probably looking at a 60 or 70. Very rarely are we seeing scores below 60. You know, but 20 is kind of your average, and use that to kind of, you know, if it's just an okay whiskey for you, then 20 is probably what you're shooting for. But everybody,
One of the challenges is in the club, Charles doesn't provide whiskeys that are average whiskeys. So most of these tend to be on the higher end.
it can be a problem, but I've not heard of that being a problem. So
But if you don't like it, nail it.
yeah.
Can I ask what you mean by balance?
Yeah, so balance would be kind of your the overall impression of the dram, right? Like, what did it work together? Did the nose kind of match the palate? Did the finish match the palate as well? You know, kind of how it all played together. You know, was it a nice experience overall? Also, you know, it's not just focusing on one specific part of the dram, the beginning or the end. It's looking at the overall, you know, was it balanced right? Was it blended right? You know, was the wood used properly for the maturation? All of that, you know, kind of plays into the balance. So it's kind of like almost like an overall grade in a way, but it's not. It's, you know, there are sometimes where the nose can be really fantastic, the finish horrible, the palate pretty good, but you know, it really depends. Again, it's super subjective. Everybody's different. It's kind of your overall impression. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna move on. All right, so next up is Heaven's Door. All right, I'm gonna talk about this next whiskey, guys. All right, so Heaven's Door. We've heard about Heaven's Door before. You know, it's that co-creation with Bob Dylan. You know, Tennessee kind of vibe going on here. The master distiller, his name is Ryan Perry, and they've just started this new kind of limited release called the Decade Series. And I was at Westport Whiskey and Wine, and they just happened to have some of this on their counter. Again, this was limited to just one per person. This I think is pretty, I think I've started to see it up here in New York. There was somebody in Syracuse who had a bottle recently, so I don't know if people are selling it up here yet, but This is their first release in this decade series, and this is a 10-year bourbon. It is distilled in Tennessee. So this is not, a Kentucky whiskey. This is actually a Tennessee bourbon. But I did find a little bit of information. So I'm going to read this really quick, just to kind of get an overview of Heaven's Door. But celebrity-backed brands, spirits don't really, this is a guy writing this, don't really appeal to me much, but I was on board with Heaven's Door from the initial releases. Heaven's Door is an award-winning collection of handcrafted American whiskeys co-created with iconic musician and artist Bob Dylan. The perfect blend of art and craft. Each bottle of Heaven's Door showcases Dylan's distinctive welded iron gates, again on the front of this bottle, that he created in his studio, Black Buffalo Ironworks. Heaven's Door portfolio is comprised of 3 core expressions, including Heaven's Door straight bourbon, double barrel whiskey, and straight rye whiskey. So it all began with the double barrel whiskey in their core lineup. But this is the first release of the new 10-year decade series. Ryan Perry, who's Heaven's Door master blender, talks about it here. He says, our 10-year bourbon is the first in a trailblazing new collection of premium whiskeys from Heaven's Door, curated out of a true labor of dedication and patience over time. Years of maturation in our barrels has resulted in this ultra premium expression. Excited, I don't want to read all this, as I mentioned. Okay, yeah, so there's not much info on where it comes from. All we know is it's Tennessee. It is over 20% rye in the mash bill. It is non-charcoal mellowed, so there's no charcoal mellowing. It says this bourbon is unlike anything you have ever had from Tennessee before. So let's guess where this comes from.
What's the price?
So this was about 100 and I think after tax it was around 120 or so, something like that. It's 50%, 100 proof. Oh. 10 years.
Yeah.
It smells like the charcoal. It's got
Honestly,
that.
for 10 years, I would have expected a better note.
It's very light.
Yeah, it is. I agree. Is that Shalom?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, Shalom.
So, Charles, this is their own whiskey. This is not sourced.
No, their brand is sourced.
Okay. But
They're,
it's sourced
they're
from
blended.
Tennessee?
It's Tennessee bourbon, yeah.
No, so therefore it is sourced from somebody in
That's right.
Tennessee.
That's right.
Maybe, yeah. It has a Dickel-like quality to me. I get almost like they call it Flintstone vitamin. This one to me is more like almost like a Necco wafer, but something about like a chocolate sweet, almost like a Kool-Aid powder somewhere in there.
Ollie
That's
says
that psychedelic Kool-Aid again, is it?
Could be. Could be. I'm surprised by how astringent it is. I don't know if this is happening for anybody else, but the finish is like really drying out my mouth.
Yeah. I just feel like there's like no finish, like
Yeah, I
disappears.
thought it was a very short finish.
I agree. Very light finish and it feels a lot weaker than the 100 proof bill here. To me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hardly there.
Yeah.
Initially, I got a lot of wood, but then that faded too.
it does drop, but it does remain on your tongue though. Like, you know, the finish does fade, but there's still a lot of flavor.
We're getting a lot of mint out of this, mint and chocolate. Chocolate, a lot of chocolate.
Yeah, I agree with the mint.
Oh, very much. Yeah, there's quite a bit of mint.
A little chocolate.
Oh yeah, Vinny, you're getting dark chocolate or light chocolate?
Oh, dark, definitely dark chocolate.
Dark. Ollie gets coffee.
I agree tonight.
So I have a bottle of the collector's edition Heaven's Door. It was like a $500 bottle, and I got to taste it. It comes in like a leather pouch and everything, and you get a little coin with it and all this stuff. And that was actually really, really good. It wasn't $500 worth good, but it was very tasty. Well, I'll bust that out at some point when we have a special tasting, because it's definitely not something I'm just going to keep in my bunker forever. That's for sure. I think this could be better for what it is, but
Yeah, I'm happy to drink it.
yeah, that's why we do this, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I doubt I'm gonna get this here in the shop. I mean, these things are so allocated. It's crazy. Actually, you know, the Blood Oath, I did read that there were 51,000 bottles of the Blood Oath.
But honestly, that's Blue Note for 40.
But it's still hard to get. It's kind of crazy, 51,000 bottles.
Honestly,
I don't know about this one.
Just literally just gonna say.
I'm not a huge fan of this one.
$25. I mean, it's better than this. It's got early times. It's got a bit of a some better stuff. It's got some flavor for.
Yes. It's like too strong. That's why it's good to do these tastings, so you know which bottles to avoid as much as which bottles to buy.
Hey, Charles, you were saying everybody's excited about the Buffalo Trace Antique. I was all excited about the new Nick Offerman Lagavulin that you can pre-order now. So are you going to be getting that one in the shop?
I don't know. We got last year's, and we just got one case, and it went pretty quickly. That was right around when we opened, actually, last year. And, you know, we just don't do a lot of Diageo stuff. You know, we're just not competing on the Diageo level. You know, I mean, that's not our thing. I love Oban, I love Lagavulin, I love all of them, Talisker, you name it. I love them all, but we're just not. They don't really care about us, and we don't really care about them. So
yeah.
But I love those distilleries. I mean, my first true love was Oban, and I love Lagavulin to the utmost degree. So, you know, one of my favorite places to visit. So, yeah, we just don't sell it.
Yep, understand.
We're not trying to compete on a Diageo level. You know, that's not our mission here. So.
By the way, you're talking about the famous whiskeys. I tried the Yellowstone a couple of weeks ago, and that was not good at all. I was very surprised. At least in my opinion, it wasn't very good. So,
okay,
very, very flat.
That was the recent release of Yellowstone.
I believe so. I was on a business trip, and I got to try it. I was like, oh, I'll just try a finger of it to see what it was like, and it was like, this is really kind of bland, especially compared to what we normally drink in the shop and stuff. So,
yeah, we'll talk about Limestone Branch a little bit more at some point. It's a cool place, but they've got a lot of kind of crazy stuff. Some Yellowstones can be pretty good though.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move on. Number 3, Nulu. So one of our members who's sitting here tonight, he's actually doing a Nulu extravaganza this Saturday night. I'm a little worried about it, but got to figure out how we're going to make that happen. But yeah, I think he's doing 8. He's doing 8 different Nulus. Wow, that's a lot of Nulus. But tonight we're going to do. So we've been to the distillery. It's not really a distillery, but we've been to Prohibition Craft Spirits a couple of times now. Actually did our own barrel of Nulu Toasted Rye, which is still one of my favorite of our single barrels to date. Really, really fun bottling. But we like Nulu. Nulu's pretty cool. They have access to some great barrels. I don't know how they have access to these great barrels, but they do. They have not been around very long at all, but they've got connections, and that's what it takes in this world to start a brand and have a following. And if you can keep putting out great barrels, that following is only going to grow. And we've been getting in actually some great Nulu expressions into the shop. Holly and I a week ago or so tasted a new Holly. Here's one, Jan. Holly and I tasted a week ago a new Nulu that's coming out. It's their toasted French oak, and it is fantastic.
Is that the experimental?
No, it's not an experimental. So this is going to be one of their regular. It's probably gonna be $100 bottle or so, not the $150 for the experimental. But it was really good, very different. But we're doing a double oak tonight.
Is it in like the 4 to 5 year age range? Like
Yeah, I
most
think
of their stuff.
So this one actually, what's interesting about this one tonight is it doesn't even have a true age statement on it. It just has how long it was finished in the second barrel, which is 5 months. So this is a double oaked. Does that one have an age?
I love spicy finish.
So even the regular double oak that we have in our shop doesn't have an age in terms of years on it.
Charles, I bought one from you guys. It was last summer, and mine has a sticker that says 6 years old.
Oh, okay.
From you guys, so
Yeah.
you know.
So it's probably going to be 5 or 6 years old. It could be 5. Maybe that's why they didn't put the age on it. It's getting harder to get 6-year-old barrels, especially from MGP. So this is most likely a 5, but it's 5 months in the secondary barrel. This one comes in at 116.8 proof. This is from the Party Source. So if any of you've been to New Riff, Covington, Kentucky, which is on the border with Cincinnati, incredible store called Party Source. I was there 3 weeks ago and saw this and was like, I gotta try it. You know, I like their picks to begin with, but when you see a Nulu double oak pick, I want to try it. So that's what we're doing tonight.
What was the price on this bottle, Charles?
This one was around, it was close to $100. I think it was 90 some dollars plus tax.
Yeah, that's a very good deal. I like this one.
I'm getting a lot of cinnamon and clove and just nice warm things for the winter time. It's really, really a nice drink. Really nice drink.
Really sweet.
Also
Thank
getting
you.
lots of nuts, like pecans or something. I'm not quite sure what the nut is.
I get that vegetal note as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, yeah.
Like burning leaves or something, not like in the way that peat is, but
Yeah.
almost like the vegetal part of the leaf, but like toasted.
I love it. That's really good. But then again, I love
This is my favorite so far.
Yeah, me too. This is delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, they know what they're doing. I have yet to really have a Nulu that I really didn't like. They're pretty darn special.
Yeah, this is nice. And it's the cheapest one we've tasted so far.
Yeah.
Least expensive, please.
Yeah, okay, fine.
What was the ABV?
So the one that we have in the shop right now is a weeded double oaked. But this one's not. This is not weeded. This has got to be their rye mash bill. I don't know what the mash bill is, but
Now I feel like I have to grab that weeded double oak.
So MGP makes weeded also?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I grab the bottle, Charles?
Is that one your pick?
Yeah.
This one here?
No, not this is the Party Source.
No, I'm in the one that you have.
What's that? Say it again.
The one that you have. Is that your pick?
No, that's actually the distillery's pick. They do their own single barrel releases.
Yeah. Talking about every.
I like it very much.
I'm gonna take some more Nulu.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. Basically saying.
Look at how that sticks to the glass too.
Yeah, I cleaned mine out already. Only using one glass.
It's really viscous.
Great legs.
Thank you.
Let's do the vegetable next
The
time.
vegetables, yeah. Drink your vegetables.
Well, I have to say I was a little turned off from Nulu the first time that I had this double oaked, the one that I have, because it has a scent very similar to hickory smoked dog bones that my dog chews on, that I just like associate with my dog's slobber and him just, chewing away on this sort of thing. And the party source barrel doesn't have it at all. It eliminates that, and then the whole thing just is really excellent. I really love the palate on the one that I got, so I like sort of don't smell when I drink it, and I still really love it. But this party source one amps it up.
Now, you sure your dog didn't get into it?
He I need to start marking the bottles, honestly, because he gets more adventurous with it.
Suspiciously, he's a coon dog or a Scottish Terrier.
It's disappearing somehow. He is Scottish. He's a collie. He's a rough collie, so he likes his scotch.
Uh-huh.
That way.
You're a good boy.
Why is it's only St. Bernards that have the cask around their neck?
Right, that's true. Huh? You fetch me some whiskey?
That's actually a good idea to make those for us for next year. Have a branded Saratoga Whiskey Club little barrel around your neck.
Back up Glen Cairn inside
with a straw, like the hats that people wear. Yeah. That'd be dangerous. Yeah.
No, you need a strap on the hat. Yeah, I'm mute.
All right. So, should we move on, or do we want to continue to just savor and enjoy this Nulu? I don't know.
Now I have to decide, do I save half of it or do I just drink it all?
Yeah, I don't know. I can't answer that question. As long as you don't have to drive anywhere, I mean, maybe.
Benefits of the Zoom tasting.
That's one of the benefits. I do like your appropriate background, Kim, with the swallows.
Thank you. That's my wallpaper.
It's got the old band there.
All right, so we are going to move on. Okay, all right, guys, we're going to move on here. I'm going to talk. Whoa, already almost dropping bottles here. All right, so yeah, dropping bottles. So some of you know of Copper and Kings. I don't know how many of you know of Copper and Kings, but a few of you do. I know Shalom does, and they are based in Louisville, and they're a great distillery that's been around actually for quite some time. But they make brandy, and they make really good brandy, and they have Vendome stills, and it's very kind of similar to making whiskey in a way. You have barrels and you're aging your brandy. And one of the cool things that they do at Copper and Kings is they use music in their warehouse, which is in their basement. They blast music to vibrate the whiskey, or excuse me, the brandy and whiskey in this case, in the barrel. They were one of the first to do that. We've heard of other people doing that. I know Toothletown Spirits, where Hudson Baby Bourbon comes from, they do some of that. We also know the Blackened, the Metallica, they do that as well. Whether or not it makes a difference in wood penetration or not. That's up for debate, but whenever you go to Copper and Kings, which I recommend if you are in Kentucky, to get off the Bourbon Trail and actually check out a brandy maker. They do take you into the warehouse, into the basement, and they do turn up the volume, and they do blast some music, and you can feel the vibration of the wood, which is kind of fun. So on this latest trip that I took, this group, we ended our distillery visits with Copper and Kings. So we did, I think, 7 bourbon distilleries, maybe 8, I can't remember. And then we ended at Copper and Kings. So it was, you know, we tried to do something different. You know, the persons whose birthday it was into cocktails. You know, think of Brandy and some of the other things that Copper and Kings makes. Cocktails are definitely a focus of what they do. So it was kind of a great way to end our tour. And we did a what you call a bottle your own experience at Copper and Kings. And so we got to tour the distillery. We got to go into their warehouse, but then you go upstairs and they have, is it hard to hear, Maggie? Oh, okay. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. You go upstairs. Yeah, I know you guys can hear me. You go upstairs and the lady who, Sarah, I think was her name, the lady who showed us around, she tasted us like on 10 things. It was actually quite ridiculous. And they were all super high proof, and you know, by the 8th thing, you're like, you couldn't taste anything at all. But we tried brandies, bourbons, absinthe, rum. I mean, they do it all there. But actually, they do it really well. So I think it was the 3rd thing we tried was this bourbon. So some of you've heard of Mic Drop. Mic Drop is a special release that comes from PM Spirits. It's gaining lots of popularity these days. It's getting very expensive to find bottles, but they make Mic Drop, and this year's Mic Drop, or I don't know how long ago it was. It wasn't too long ago though. Was a very, very expensive bottle. We're talking about $500 expensive bottle. Mic Drop, and it came from an undisclosed distillery in Louisville that doesn't make whiskey, or that doesn't make whiskey as their primary production. And so immediately both Holly and I were like, oh, that's Copper and Kings. It's got to be Copper and Kings. Nobody else in Louisville is making or has the ability to make an aged bourbon. And they were selling it at charity. It was to raise money. I can't remember what it was raising money for, but so Mic Drop that came out, we actually got to taste a little bit of it. It was very good. So we deduced it was from Copper and Kings, and they actually told us, PM Spirits did tell us that it was Copper and Kings. So here I am at Copper and Kings, and they're offering a bourbon straight out of the cask. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is pretty cool. And so there were 2 options. One was apple brandy finish or grape brandy finish. So I got to taste both of them. I liked the apple brandy finished better. So we went back downstairs to where the stills were, and they had some barrels lined up that you can actually fill your own bottle. I know when Shalom and I were there back in 2018, we did, or Shalom actually filled up a bottle of brandy for me, which I still have upstairs, which is very good and very high proof. So this is very different. This is bourbon. This is corn. This is actually, so this is kind of cool. Minimum of 6 years. This is their own. This is their own bourbon. This is not sourced. Minimum of 6 years before finishing in-house for 1 year in our very own Copper and Kings American brandy barrels, surrounded by music as dynamic as the flavor notes pulsing through each pour. Quite a long time in apple brandy. I'm curious to know what you guys think. This is pretty high proof. This is 123 proof. So 61.5. I got to bottle it. I got my name on it, Chili G. There you go.
Unnecessary Zoom.
Secrets out. No, just kidding. Yeah, so this is all I got left of my bottle. It all went to you guys. This is it. This is
Sante.
it.
I would never guess that's that high a proof.
So I hope you enjoy it. If you go to Kentucky, definitely think outside the box and go to Copper and Keys. It's definitely worth it. They also have a great restaurant on their roof, which is great as well.
Charles, they only play the music.
Yeah, I love this.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing. This is excellent.
their play photos on their website are fantastic. I don't know if they're actually that good, but well.
So I don't know a lot about brandy, but do they make apple brandy out of green apples? Because I'm getting like a green apple kind of hint to this whole thing.
Jesse, that is a great question that I cannot answer.
Okay.
I just don't know what kind of, they probably told me, but by that point, it was overload. So, I believe it's a variety though. I don't know if it's just one. I don't know. I don't know. They might say it on their website though.
This got a little bit of heat at the end, but I would never guess that high of a proof on this.
Jesse, were you asking whether it's a greening or some sort of green skinned apple? Were you asking whether it's a non-ripe apple?
More like a Granny Smith, like a green apple. Yeah, that's kind of what I got on the nose, was like a green apple smell to it.
Okay.
So you can only get this bottle if you do this experience. You can't. So when I was there was a guy, it was kind of funny. He was there the day before. So he was just going every day so he could get a different bottle of what, he wanted. So, and I think he was doing it to drink. It wasn't to sell on the secondary or anything like that.
What's the price on this one?
This one wasn't bad at all. This was like 65 in tax.
65, it may be worth it. Okay. Maybe.
Oh, definitely.
Charles, are you gonna do another trip to Kentucky?
Well, I'm doing another private trip in 2 weeks, but I don't know when I'm doing my trips next week or next year yet. There will be some, but I don't know at this point. Trying to figure all that out right now. Everybody will know when I do them though, so.
And at Copper and Kings, is it specifically Metallica?
No. So they're not the Blackened label. So Blackened is Metallica owned or partially owned or collaborated. They do actually. I think it might have been Talking Heads when we were there. I can't remember. They were blasting something.
I have a picture of you from May 17th, 2018, but I was trying to get it into my background and I couldn't quite get it there in time. So, but I have a picture of you up like this against the barrels.
Oh, okay. I did take a video this time when it was playing. I'll post it at some point, but you can kind of get a sense. It's a little hard.
Yeah, I think it was Talking Heads when we were there.
Okay.
I'm getting a little Nora Jones on the finish.
Little Nora Jones on the finish. Yeah, there you go.
Hey Charles, it'd be great other than Kim, who I just heard was from New York City, and Holly, to know who the other people on the Zoom call, where they're from.
Oh, yeah.
And by the way, I'm from New Hampshire. I'm in New Hampshire.
Yeah, so we have Maryland, we have Connecticut, we have Brooklyn, or no, Manhattan, we have Florida. I think that's it. Everybody else is local.
How come you can say Brooklyn and I can't?
Well, it's not Brooklyn. So nobody from Brooklyn tonight. If you're in the tasting next week, I think we have a bunch of people from New York City. There were a lot of Campbelltown fans down in the city, so that filled up pretty quickly.
You new people will have to tune in later to get the backstory on that.
Yes, there's a lot of Brooklyn backstory, that's for sure.
Well, I grew up in Queens, so that helps.
Helps what? Get lost?
I don't know.
Why can't I think of new names for the streets? Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true.
you're
There's
starting to
82nd
Kim.
Avenue, 82nd Road, 82nd Street, 82nd Way. Yeah, I get it.
And the Borough Wars restart.
Was it the old Nashville?
I love this one, Charles. And so far, my lesson here is that as we get cheaper or less expensive, I'm sorry,
I didn't know if it was.
the better they get.
Yeah. Feeling that way to me too. Yeah.
More quality for your buck.
The proof getting higher is a major confound though too. I'm finding. I think this, between 115 and 125 add some flavor, add some punch for sure too.
I would agree, but I actually can't tell this one is that much. I don't. I mean, what was this? 123?
Yeah,
That's
123.
amazing to me.
Pretty tasty.
Oh, very tasty.
All right, so we're gonna move on here. Am I going too fast?
No, that's right.
Just right, okay. All right, so we have actually somebody here in
The only
person.
thing I just wanted to say is like, I don't get any apple on this at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Holly says she doesn't get a ton either.
I got butterscotch on the finish.
Chocolate chip cookie
Chocolate chip cookie dough, somebody said.
I get more apples on number 5, so here we go. It is.
Hey, Charles, by the way, I just jumped on their website. They actually have the playlist of the music that they play in the cellar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so anything from Alabama Shakes to Easy Stars. So there you go.
That's cool.
Actually, Kim, I didn't get that much apple before, and assuming I've gone back to the right empty glass, I'm getting a lot more apple on the nose now than residual than I did tasting the whiskey.
I actually wonder if there's something about apple brandy casks, because I have the Nulu apple brandy rye, and I have Charles and Holly, your Delbach Calvados.
The Calvados, yeah.
And I gotta say, I on both of those and this one, I was like hoping for more apple, and I feel like it's super subtle. I think the Delbach has the most, but maybe there's just something about apple brandy casks, like they don't give off as much, or maybe they're not used long enough to like impart a particularly strong flavor or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think apple brandy itself doesn't give off that much apple.
Right. I mean, the Copper and Kings apple brandy is like 130 proof. It doesn't taste like apples. It just tastes like whiskey. So you're not going to get
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like the Laird's like high proof one. I don't know. I feel like I get. I mean, that's apple brandy. I mean, it's not really a fair comparison, but I feel like I get a lot of apple on it. But yeah, like Holly's comment. Yeah, I mean, something like Compass. I get more apple on like a Compass Box Orchard House than I do on something like this.
I think with corn, has a tough time. That sweetness of the corn maybe doesn't pull the apple, whereas barley can, take on more flavor. Corn is a difficult finishing grain. I mean, some people do it really well. I've actually had some pretty decent red wine finished bourbons, which sounds crazy, but they were actually pretty decent. But
port finish.
In general, though, it's tough. Especially with a lighter, maybe. Apple's not a heavy, it's not port, right? It's not the heavy sherry fortified red fruit. This is a lighter, I don't know. Maybe it's the grain, maybe it's the corn as part of it, or the rye that's in it as well, that's countering it. But, okay, so we're gonna move on to Blackwood. We actually have here, so we're gonna talk Blackwood real quick. All right, so Blackwood up next. So we actually have in our room, in our presence tonight, one of the founders' good friends. And actually, from what I understand, they met each other doing ski patrol in Tahoe. And right, am I right?
Sort of.
Ski
bums.
Ski bums. All right, no, forget it. They were ski bums in Tahoe. So Aaron, who's here with us tonight, he reached out to me earlier this year, actually, and told me that, hey, when you're down in the Lexington area, you should go check out my buddy. He just started a new brand. His name's Guinness. You got to go check him out. And so I looked him up, and
Can't go wrong with that name.
yeah. So Guinness, it's actually a pretty cool story. I pulled it up here. So Guinness, what's his name? It's Guinness. What is his last name? McFadden. Guinness McFadden, even better. Basically, and Matt Koldrick, who's here, who's a big horse fan, will know this, but in 2019 in the Kentucky Derby, there was a very large disqualification. And the horse that ended up winning was called Country House. And Country House actually was owned by Guinness McFarland.
Really?
Yeah. So Guinness kind of lucked out. The 65-1 horse. They ended up making a lot of money, and their stables, which happens to be the Blackwood stables, was in the driver's seat at that point. And like any other budding entrepreneur who lives in Kentucky or Lexington area, why not get into bourbon? So you have, we've talked about Casks and Key and how it was it was a lawyer who was at the races at Keeneland, who was like drinking some bourbon and was like, hey, this looks like a cool thing to do. Maybe I should go look and buy a distillery somewhere. And he found Castle and Key for $1,000, dilapidated and, basically run down to all get out, but reinvigorated it and put in a lot of money. So Guinness is creating a new brand in Versailles, which is right outside of Lexington, very big horse farm country, beautiful, beautiful area. But so Aaron put me in touch with Guinness, and I told him that I had a group coming in May, and could we stop by and just visit his horse farm. And so we did. We went to his house, which is actually on a beautiful horse farm, and kind of hard to find. There's lots of little roads out there, but he took us in. We sat there for about an hour or so, talked with him, learned the story behind the brand. So Blackwood is the brand. Here's the bottle. Got a nice horse on the front. This happens to be batch 1. They're on batch 2 now. Batch 1 is sold out. However, I found this at Total Wine in Louisville. They still had some in a case, which kudos to him for getting into Total Wine. I mean, that's a huge, opportunity for a new brand to break into Total Wine. This is their toasted bourbon batch 1. This comes in at a pretty high proof of 121. We did taste this at his house. It was, I thought, fantastic, especially for a first go. Let me give you a little bit of a breakdown of what it is. This is about a $150 bottle. There were 1,700 bottles in batch 1. Only 9 barrels were picked for this toasted bourbon batch 1. The details of each secondary finish are unknown. They do tell us that the majority of them were toasted. The final composition is bottled at cask strength 121 proof. and has notes of creme brulee, gingerbread, toasted pecan, and charred oak. So they just came out with batch 2. This is not available in New York yet. I have a feeling it's not going to be available up here for a while. You know, he's just getting started down there. It's only available in that kind of Kentucky and surrounding state market. Yeah, it was a fun experience. He invited me back whenever I have another group to come back and sit on the porch and maybe even do a meal there, get somebody to cook for us. But that would be a fun thing to do with this great new brand. But it was fun to find this because I couldn't find it when I was there in May, but I found it when I was there this last trip a few weeks ago. So we get to try it.
Delicious. Very good.
Charles, do you know how old this is?
I'm disruptive.
I don't remember what he said. Let's see if I can. No. This is source. Yeah. I kind of remember that he might have said it was Barton, but I don't know exactly. Has a nice palate though.
Yeah. Very nice.
I'm trying to take a look and see if I can find it. Oh, okay, here we go. 6 years. 6 years. And then it was put into the, some of them were put in the toasted barrels. Not all of them. So this is a batch. So they batch 9 barrels. Some of them are toasted. Not all of them. But 6-year-old bourbon.
That's too far. That's too far for me to go. I've been following my bar for the last.
So Charles, you went out of order with the proof. You said you were going from lowest to highest. Is it because this one's toasted? Is that why it's a little bit stronger?
I probably just didn't look at it closely.
I thought, Charles, you had switched to doing the most premium option first, because we didn't want to kill our palates before it. So when I looked at the list, I had assumed that was why we were doing the blood oath first, and then
I do that sometimes, but actually, I'm tempted to switch next week's order from what I've already put out there. So we'll see. But next week is really about proof though too. So I gotta. It's sometimes really hard to figure that out, but
yeah.
So you guys like this one?
Yeah, I love it. There's the nose. There's something reminiscent about that your Penelope toasted barrel pick that I love. That's my favorite dram ever, and there's something about that. It reminds me of that. I really like it.
Yeah, that was a great pick. The Penelope that we have right now as well is fantastic. I really.
Which Penelope bottle is it?
We have this. It's a limited release. We were able to get the rest of a barrel of it, and I think it's just really delicious. It's a combination of 4 different mash bills.
Okay.
So it's not a toasted bourbon, but you come in and taste it. We've got it open. Really, really great. I think it's a sleeper.
Okay. I'd be excited to try it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Under the radar. Yeah, sleeper. We just had a customer come in the store we were closed. Saw this big group of 14 people sitting here, and he still went about his business and bought something. So, whatever. Good for him, yes.
Hey, Charles, did you say you saw it opening for next week?
What did he buy?
Holiday toast and
Oh, wow.
And he paid cash.
He paid cash.
We watched.
Oh, yeah. Holly was on the camera. That's kind of crazy.
But it's being filmed.
All right, so as the proof goes up, the noise gets louder, but we're gonna wrap up with so
you need a gavel.
I have not had anything from this distillery yet. I don't know if anybody here has, but I'm gonna talk about this distillery first. Let's see here. All right, hold on, guys. I'm going to talk about Colorado here. All right, so Distillery 291, which I'm assuming is an area code. Is that right? Yeah, it's got to be right. Is an award-winning small batch whiskey distillery nestled in the stunning foothills of the Rocky Mountains, located in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The distillery sits in the shadow of Pikes Peak, where owner and founding distiller Michael Myers, a former New York City fashion and beauty photographer with a love of whiskey and passion for the Old West, aims to replicate the taste, smell, and folklore of that time to create a one-of-a-kind, bold, and beautiful Colorado whiskey. Rugged, refined, rebellious. That's their motto. Myers set out to create a flagship whiskey that evoked the Wild West. He grew up on a rural family farm in Georgia and Tennessee, across the countryside defined by rolling hills, horses, Jack Daniels, and George Dickel. For decades since then, he carried with him an iconic vision of a cowboy walking into a bar saying, "Give me a whiskey," and the bartender slamming down a bottle. That bottle would be 291 Colorado whiskey. Myers built his original still from copper photographer plates that he had once used to create enduring photographic scenes from Western landscapes to the Chrysler Building. On September 11, 2011, 10 years after 9/11, changed his life and the lives of so many others, Myers pulled his first whiskey off that still, building his future in whiskey off his passion for photography. So 291 Colorado whiskey is handmade the Colorado way, from grain to barrel to bottle, hand from scratch, 10 distinctive Colorado whiskeys, utilizing grains from the Colorado plains and water collected from Pikes Peak. Myers turned his artist's eye towards whiskey and hasn't looked back. So this one that we're doing tonight is their single barrel bourbon Colorado whiskey. They do a bunch of different things. This is an aspen stave finished and bottled at barrel proof for one-of-a-kind Colorado flavor, full body straight from the barrel, mashed in a copper pot, still aged in white oak, deep char barrels, finished with toasted aspen staves. It won double gold in San Francisco World Spirits and liquid gold in Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible. This is 127 proof. This is corn, malted rye. So corn, malted rye, and malted barley. So it's not your traditional mash bill. This is malted rye. So this was actually a pick. This was a store pick. So this is not their normal released. This is a barrel select pick. This is from Westport Whiskey and Wine in Louisville. So this is their own pick. Yep, they picked this barrel. Yeah, so I'd never had it. I saw it. I've always wanted to try it. I know it's not Kentucky bourbon, but it's the highest proof, so it's ending our night tonight. But Colorado bourbon whiskey.
Does it have an age?
What's the price of this?
There were only 47 bottles, I'll tell you that. So it must have been a small barrel.
You said he distilled this himself too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't see an age on here.
It's funny though, I love that description of the.
I don't see an age.
It smells awesome. I'm actually afraid to taste it.
This is a
Probably-
weird bourbon.
It's probably pretty young.
Tasting the movie Tombstone, right?
The palate tastes like pencil shaving.
Winner chicken dinner.
This is great.
Young wood.
It's very woody.
That was one of my early.
The nose is like pine sap and the palate is like pencils.
Number 2?
Yeah, because it's kind of soft.
My daughter yesterday asked me if I had any number 2 pencils. I was like, I'm sorry, I can't help you.
PSAP,
That's a
Charles.
pretty good assessment of it.
Bad dad, bad dad.
Bring them in. We can bring-
No, I don't even have any. So it would
Charles, we can bring you some when we pick up the candle.
No, please don't, please don't. No.
Okay.
What's the price of that?
This one I can't. I think it was around like $70, $80.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've got a wine
49 bottles made.
cork top. Yeah, you can pass it around if you want.
Yeah, that's good.
Hey, Charles,
Yeah.
when they finish it with the staves, do they just, I mean, is it like a steel barrel that they actually just put the staves in, or how do they do that with the staves themselves?
Well, I mean, it depends. So, there's different ways people do it. Sometimes they just drop them in and they let them float around in there. Sometimes they hang them in. Maker's Mark, they hang them. Sometimes, so the club, we were just at Black Button in Rochester, and we're working on a barrel. We got to taste some straight out of the cask, and what we've decided to do is we're having these special staves sent in that we're going to have infused into the Black Button, and they're pretty unusual. One was birch. There was, I can't remember the other 2, but we did 3 ash, maybe. Yeah, ash. I can't remember, but we're going to get to taste these in probably another month or so. And that'll be a bottle that will be released to the club for next year. But,
So they put the staves in the barrel itself then? Or is
yeah,
it after
so
it's
it's like an
bottled?
extra
Okay.
couple of months of finishing. Instead of putting it in a different barrel, you're just putting some staves in it to give it a little extra something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, what's the distillery in Rochester? That's my hometown. Haven't been there.
Black Button.
Yes, it did mellow out. That mellowed out.
Charles, how did you decide on what type of wood you wanted in the staves?
We talked to the distiller. And,
Okay.
we went through kind of the different tasting notes of each of the staves and settled on a few. And we told them, we're going to try it and see what it's like. And again, if it's not something we like, we don't have to take it either. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. I didn't want to do another just cask strength Black Button. We've already done that. Actually, we have a great pick here in the store already. So we wanted something unique that they hadn't done before.
Cool. Very cool. Are you going to be doing another trip to go back and taste it again, or is that just with the folks who win?
Yeah, they're going to send us actually the samples with the finishing.
Gotcha.
Thanks for clarifying which Michael Myers it was. Wasn't sure if it was the serial killer or the comedian or what, photographer.
Sassafras?
Halloween ends.
They were different people?
Oh,
Yeah, I thought this was the Halloween one, right?
Sassafras was the other stave. Yeah. So they were very different.
Seriously, sassafras is a root beer paste.
It's root beer. It's a root beer taste.
Oh.
Yeah.
I gotta say, Charles, the I'm not sure what to make of this. Maybe I'm not sure what, but Copper Kings won for me tonight.
Okay.
Which happens
I
to
think-
be the least expensive bottle on the.
Yeah, well, you have to pay, I think, $45 to take the tour, so.
Well, goes to show that you know, the hype doesn't always measure up.
Yes. No, oh, definitely. I mean, that's what we found in so many ways with so much whiskey. The hype isn't what it's all about, you know? You know, maybe this double gold 291 was something that caught the judges by surprise, and they were like, wow, this is really cool, you know, like we really love this.
Which is weird because
San Francisco, which is big.
I think it's good. What, you don't like it, Jim?
I think what's amazing about it, and like I think Brian is right on point. Like I don't know what to make of it. I have to keep drinking it to figure it out. It's not like when I drink it, I hate it. So it's like I'm sort of like I just keep wanting to drink it, not necessarily because I love it, but I feel the need to keep drinking it.
Maybe it needs some time in the glass.
Amen. Amen.
Maybe, you know, some of these really high proof, maybe it needs some water. Maybe it needs a couple of drops of water too. It's definitely young.
It's really complex, actually. I just think.
That's actually a great point, because I'm a typical neat drinker, and some shit that is just not conducive to being neat, and maybe I'm missing something on that front.
Yeah, it takes away from that real dry. Yeah.
Well, I kind of have to agree with you though, because I think with that the aspen staves in it almost gives it like a pine sol kind of hint to it. Where going back to the Copper and Kings with that apple, I really like the apple over the piney flavor that you get from this one.
I'm gonna stop by tomorrow with that Alpha.
And Brian, I'd like to go back to what your definition is, because a lot of things we have water droppers. So you're putting in just a few drops of water. I don't know if that moves it from neat to something else.
Well, that's my point, is that I've drank all these neat, and maybe some water or some ice changes the entire experience. But based on these 6 right now, drinking them neat, Copper Kings wins for me. So.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Copper and Kings. It was definitely the best.
I feel like that.
Here
is really
you go.
sneaking up
All
on
right.
me.
So we had a question on what's the mash bill of the Colorado. So this is actually pretty interesting. This might make you think a little differently. 80% corn, 19% malted rye, and 1% malted barley. So just keep that in mind. Interesting. 80 corn, that's pretty high.
And is it, Charles, is it barley that adds the enzymes?
Yeah, but I mean, 1%, it's not going to add much flavor. So
yeah. So do they like decide to do that because of the enzymes?
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one was the 80% corn?
The last one.
Yeah, to me, it tasted like young corn liquor.
Huh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely young. Holly reminded me that we did taste some 291 at one point, and everything was 2 years old at that point. So I don't remember that, but that's my problem. She writes everything down. I don't write anything down. I just taste it and move on.
Respect.
As long as she keeps a notebook, we're good. There it is.
Maybe Holly has a number 2 pencil.
Maybe what?
Maybe Holly has a number 2 pencil.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so. You have a number 2 pencil? Mechanical, it's all mechanical. So Nulu is the favorite, it seems like, for a bunch of people here. Dale, Peter, Kim.
So I think
Mark.
Nulu rocks. Copper Kings was right there with it, even though it wasn't really a bourbon, but yeah.
Oh my God, Shalom, come on.
He must have got a piece of antler or something in his, I don't know.
Shalom says he scored the Colorado, the lowest he's ever scored.
No, but the lowest of any club tasting, not the lowest of any tasting, but because you always have premium.
Club.
Yeah.
So Charles, we actually can't get any of these. So I'm not sure what the point was.
What?
We actually can't buy any of these, so I'm not sure what the point was.
It was the tasting.
The point of the tasting is the tasting itself, not that you're adding it to your
I got
collection.
that. I got that.
I mean, we do tastings where you can, but this is a special one.
Yeah.
Actually, next week, same thing. Can't buy any of them.
He had like 3 single malt whiskey society bottles in that, I think.
So that's how the club rolls sometimes, you know, it's about tasting things that you can't get access to. So that's what makes it special too. So
Yeah.
Hey, Charles, did you say next week is full already, or is there any openings left? It is full. Okay.
Sorry about that.
Sometimes we do tastings of bottles Charles has like 2 or 3 of, and we all race online to go buy them before someone else does.
Well, Charles, I'll have you know that my pregame was Mickner's.
Oh, nice.
And my postgame too. So.
There you go. Hey, Brian, in a couple of weeks, we're opening up New Hampshire.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're doing like Tamworth or?
No, we're able to ship to New Hampshire.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So tell all your buddies, you know, and, if they want anything special.
Let me tell you something. I've got more to sell this club than anybody.
All good. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the recording. It was a great tasting. I hope you all enjoyed it. Some unique bottles, and yeah. So
very much.
It's getting too loud in here, though. I can't hear anybody. So
thanks so much.
Fair enough.
Have fun.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
thanks, Charles.
Thank
you
you.
did.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
It was
Charles.
very generous to share these. So
Thank you. Another wonderful.
Thanks, Charles and
event.
Holly.
Thanks, Charles.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thanks, everybody.